WNBA Finals opener is the most watched since league's inaugural year, I believe, in 1997. That means it took nearly 27 years to get to this point. 27 years to get to this point. So they started out on a high, and it's just been...
The ratings for Game 1 of the WNBA Finals have just been released, and the league is now facing major backlash. Reports suggest that the WNBA may have been caught inflating its so-called record-breaking viewership numbers. ESPN had proudly announced that the opening game attracted the largest audience in nearly 30 years, celebrating it as a historic milestone for women's basketball. However, as fans began to look more closely at the data, many noticed discrepancies that raised serious doubts about the authenticity of those claims.
When are numbers not what the numbers are when you see them? Oh, sure feels like there might be some funny business going on. Is there a little nasty work going on behind the scenes? A little abracadabra bewitched action? Stephanie White knows this one. Yeah, she's conjuring up ratings for the Aces and the Mercury.
Social media erupted almost instantly, with fans questioning how they could have missed such a supposedly historic event. Many pointed out that there was virtually no buzz about the WNBA Finals, not on sports radio, television, or even across major online platforms. This led to a bigger question. How could a game that struggled to fill the stands suddenly become a ratings sensation? Soon after, reports began surfacing about the use of controversial data methods that may have artificially inflated the numbers, painting a much rosier picture of the league's success than reality suggested. At this point, the issue has gone beyond basketball. It's now about integrity. Did the WNBA genuinely achieve a record-breaking moment, or did ESPN and league officials manipulate the narrative to protect their image?
1.9 million viewers with a peak of 2.5 million. ESPN scores most watched Game 1 of the WNBA Finals in 28 years, behind only 1997's single-game championship format.
When ESPN proudly announced that the WNBA Finals opener had become the most watched game in nearly 3 decades, the league erupted in celebration. Headlines flooded social media, hailing it as a historic night for women's basketball, while ESPN's press release boasted about unprecedented growth and record-breaking audience engagement, with reports claiming 1.9 million average viewers and a peak of 2.5 million. It seemed like the long-awaited breakthrough moment the league had been striving for. For executives who had spent years fighting for mainstream recognition, it was a dream headline. But within just a few hours, the excitement began to unravel, and what looked like a triumph started to raise some serious questions.
I saw these ratings and went, my first literal response, oh, that's bullshit. My first response. Literally the first thing out of my mouth was, well...
Fans on social media were quick to point out something strange. This so-called record-breaking game had barely made a ripple in the public conversation. There were no trending hashtags, no viral highlights, and none of those. Did you see that? Moments lighting up timelines. Major sports talk shows didn't cover it, and radio hosts completely overlooked it. Even longtime WNBA followers admitted they hadn't realized the finals had even begun. The disconnect was glaring. How could a game that supposedly drew millions of viewers make absolutely no cultural impact?
Nielsen methodology change. A key factor in 2025 is a change in Nielsen's methodology to include big data plus panel, which incorporates out-of-home viewing. A change that generally results in higher reported viewership for all sports broadcasts compared to previous years. Critics argue that some reported year-over-year growth may be partially attributable to this methodological change, which is not always clearly noted in press releases, of course, not noted in this year's press.
Then came the bigger, way more important question. Where did these numbers even come from? Analysts started digging deeper and found that ESPN itself had released the data citing Nielsen metrics. But independent Nielsen reports nowhere to be seen. Usually Nielsen publicly releases all the official ratings data. This time though, it was just ESPN doing all the talking. And yeah, that definitely raised some eyebrows.
I go listen to sports radio. I'm not getting any WNBA finals. I'll turn on ESPN. I'm not getting any WNBA finals. I'll turn on Fox Sports 1. I'm not getting any WNBA finals. Nowhere I look do I see people really discussing the WNBA finals. And ESPN spits out 1.9 million viewers. Are these silent viewers? They very well may.
A lot of people started suspecting this record wasn't nearly as authentic as they wanted us to believe. And adding to all the confusion was the mention of a methodology update. Quietly, almost secretly tucked into the fine print. See, a new Nielsen system called Big Data Plus Panel had rolled out earlier in the year, dramatically expanding what even counts as viewership. Now, it included out-of-home audiences. Think people who might have caught a few seconds of the game in bars, restaurants, gyms, or even airports. Basically, if you were near a screen, you could be counted as a viewer.
How does it happen when literally nobody is talking about the actual...
So, that meant these numbers weren't just measuring passionate fans actively watching at home. Oh no, they were measuring just total eyeballs, even if they were super passive. This revelation changed absolutely everything. What ESPN was calling a historic night might simply have been the result of a clever counting trick. The host of the Bendo podcast summed it up perfectly, saying, "Are these silent viewers? Because nobody's talking about this game." That line captured exactly how fans felt. This whole supposed ratings boom, it simply didn't reflect reality.
I'm waiting for the official Nielsen ratings. ESPN likes to do some funny math. You can't find those numbers anywhere else. Every AI lists ESPN as the source, not Nielsen. Last time I checked, ESPN isn't in the ratings business. They're reporting their own ratings. Why did it take so long to put this out? I'm suspicious. Amazing for a game that couldn't even sell out.
For years, the WNBA has struggled for any mainstream recognition. And now, finally, the league had this shiny new narrative of success to parade around. But behind all the smiles and glowing press releases, doubts started spreading like wildfire. If this truly was the most watched finals opener since 1997, then why did it feel like absolutely no one saw it? This whole record was quickly starting to look like a complete illusion. It wasn't built on genuine fan engagement. It was built on data manipulation disguised as progress. And once fans started asking questions, the story unraveled at lightning speed. Okay, so if the WNBA finals really pulled in nearly 2 million viewers, then where in the world was the buzz? Seriously, that's the question fans couldn't stop asking. Normally, when a sporting event shatters ratings records, the reaction is instant and everywhere. Highlights flood social media. Talk shows obsess over every moment. News outlets can't stop mentioning it. But this time, crickets. The silence was absolutely deafening. Even major sports networks seemed completely uninterested in their own supposed success story. No big segments, no follow-up coverage, no viral celebration. It felt like a record that existed only on paper. The host of the Bendo podcast nailed it, pointing out he hadn't heard a single mention of the finals on any sports platform. Not ESPN's debate shows, not Fox Sports, not even Twitter. He scrolled through feeds usually packed with WNBA clips. Yet, there was barely a trace of excitement. Even the league's most loyal supporters weren't talking about it. This glaring disconnect became the spark that ignited a massive fire of doubt. If this was truly a breakthrough moment, why did it feel invisible? And to make matters worse, fans immediately started comparing it to other sports airing at the same time. NASCAR, college football, MLB playoffs, all had way more visible discussions, even with similar or smaller viewership numbers. This just screamed that either the WNBA audience was unusually quiet, or those millions of supposed viewers simply didn't exist. The numbers in the actual atmosphere just didn't match, and that inconsistency made everyone's suspicion. Then the deeper layers started to unravel. And this is where it gets crazy. Analysts quickly noticed that ESPN's grand viewership claims were missing one crucial detail: transparency. The official Nielsen report, which is always used to verify audience numbers, hadn't been released publicly. Instead, the press release cited internal data and an updated methodology. That alone made tons of people believe ESPN was strategically controlling the narrative. Think about it. ESPN isn't just a broadcaster. They're a huge financial stakeholder in the WNBA's success. If the league looks strong, ESPN rasps in more ad revenue and boosts its own brand credibility. So, it hit fans. The silence wasn't accidental. It was controlled. Online forums like Reddit and threads blew up with people calling out this phantom viewer. Users mocked the idea of ghost fans, millions of people who supposedly watched the finals but left zero trace of discussion anywhere. Others compared it to those inflated movie box office numbers where the marketing spin completely overshadows reality. The phrase manufactured success started trending in smaller sports communities. This rapidly growing skepticism put ESPN and the WNBA in such an awkward position.